Hi, it's Ileana. So today I'm remote viewing the Skinwalker Ranch, Blindfrog Ranch, and Bradshaw Ranch. We're going to start with remote viewing Skinwalker Ranch and what happens there. Skinwalker Ranch remote viewing report. Surface layer, the land and atmosphere. The land holds a palpable charge, like static electricity before a thunderstorm. It's a convergence zone where electromagnetic energy flows from the Earth's crust braid and connects with one another, creating a persistent atmospheric instability. The ranch feels like it has soft spots in the air, places where the density shifts. Animals sense these zones and avoid them. Humans walking into them feel sudden disorientation, nausea, or a split-second flicker as if their perception lagged. Above the ranch, there's a faint plasma haze that ebbs in and out, like a transparent aurora. This is not visible to most eyes, but registers as shimmering heat mirage distortions. Subsurface layer, geological and energetic. Underneath the ranch is a quartz heavy strata woven with metallic veins. These act like natural antennae, amplifying geomagnetic pulses. There's an ancient fault line that runs obliquely under the property. This line channels energy like a river, occasionally surging with plasma bursts. About 200 to 300 feet down, there's a honeycomb-like cavern network. These chambers resonate with an unusual low-frequency hum. Some chambers are warm, with plasma presence. Others feel like voids, spaces outside ordinary space. The plasma conduit. A vertical plasma conduit rises through the land. It behaves like a portal spine, sometimes flaring, sometimes dormant. When active, it peels back the layers of dimensional separation, allowing bleed-through events where beings, craft, or phenomenon slip in. The plasma is self-intelligent in some way, not alive in the biological sense, but responsive to consciousness and intent. It seems to scan those nearby, adjusting what manifests according to their fears, expectations, or resonance. So this is what this plasma conduit looks like to me. It has this shimmering energy of purple, blue, white. When I look at it from the psychic perspective, it looks almost like a wormhole and a portal entrance, a sequence of energy and colors that vibrate. And it is not visible to the human eye, but in the psychic eye, this is what it looks like. And it opens up with mostly blue energy, and the crafts come out of it or go into it. So things that have been, I guess, filmed on Skinwalker Ranch, like crafts and stuff, they're coming through this plasma conduit that acts like a portal or a wormhole. It's very much feels energetic to me, and it is something that was set up there a long time ago before humans inhabited that space. So it's been there as an anchor point for a long time. So this plasma conduit acts like an energetic portal system where the craft enter through it and appear corporeally in physical dimensions. So they could be energetic as a source, but then they can appear in a corporeal form in these physical dimensions on 3D Earth, like at Skinwalker Ranch. Let's have a look at the entities that are present at Skinwalker. Number one, shifting predator form. Appears as a large wolf-like or humanoid predator, but is not fixed in form. It seems like a projection or an astral sentinel generated by the conduit. Its presence is tied to fear harvesting, amplifying terror, then feeding off of it. So they're not actually what we call skinwalkers. They're not going to actually eat you or necessarily go after you. They're just projecting this energy of fear in a sense of not wanting people to be there. It's kind of like a protectionary mechanism to keep people out of there, out of this zone. Plasma probes, number two. Small spheres of light, often mistaken for orbs or UFOs. These are scouts recording bioenergetic data. They can phase through solid matter and sometimes merge into larger constructs. So there's plasma probes that appear as orbs, spheres, or UFOs. They can shapeshift their forms because they're plasmatic. Plasma probes. Number three, interloping visitors. Various beings use the conduit as a transit gate. Some are humanoid but dissonant in appearance, elongated skulls, shifting skin tones. Others are insectoid or reptilian, cloaked in partial camouflage. Their interest seems observational and experimental, testing the boundaries of physical and energetic thresholds of the human consciousness. Number four, ancestral guardians. Deep in the cavern network are stone encoded consciousness fields, ancient guardians tied to the land. They are not physical beings, but resonant intelligences embedded in crystal and stone. When invoked, sometimes by accident, they repel or warp the activity of hostile entities. So there are ancestral guardians there that keep out these interloper visitors or try to keep out the skinwalkers as much as possible so that humans aren't scared by this phenomenon, that it's not 24/7 ongoing. It's intermittent because the ancestral guardians are there. So the energy is not always so intense and chaotic with these beings. Not all the time. It is intermittent. The phenomenon doesn't always act up this way. It could be peaceful and quiet some days and very active other days, more so than others. So it is not always the same energy of what you're going to get and see. It could vary. Some days, if somebody comes to the ranch, it's very quiet. They won't see anything at all or experience anything. And other days, it will be very intense, and they'll experience everything that the phenomenon throws at you. So it can vary, and it depends if you're lucky or unlucky, I guess, to what you experience, because the phenomenon will vary what it shows you or the experience you'll get based on the energy and frequency you also have. So the phenomenon, time slips. People experience sudden losses of time or looping sequences where a moment repeats with minor differences. This is a side effect of stepping into resonance fields where dimensional veils overlap. Poltergeist effects, objects vanish, reappear, or shift places. This is due to localized reality distortions around the plasma bursts. Animal responses, livestock mutilations are often not killed in the ordinary sense, but partially phased into another dimension, resulting in surgical-like anomalies when returned. Consciousness probing, visitors often report a sense of being read or invaded mentally. The plasma conduit acts as a mind interface, allowing beings to enter dream states, visions, and waking thought simultaneously. That's interesting. Now we're going to look at the grid connection. The ranch is a node in a larger planetary plasma lattice. Its twin nodes align across the globe in a triangulated geometry. Energy circulates through this grid, and Skinwalker's conduit is like a switch point where flow can be tapped or redirected. What happens here is not isolated. Disturbances ripple into other grid points, triggering activity elsewhere, notably in other deserts, mountain regions, and ancient sacred sites. So this plasma node conduit, it spans. It spans in a large area beyond Skinwalker Ranch into other places, as we'll soon see. Here's the Skinwalker Ranch mission board schematic written out in clear layers. Mission board schematic, Skinwalker Ranch. Number 1, surface layer, charged atmosphere, static-like energy, perceptible density shifts in air, perceptual flickers, time-slip sensations, nausea, and disorientation, plasma haze, heat mirage, aurora above property, flickering in, out, animal sensitivity, avoidance behaviors, agitation, herd panic. When the strange stuff happens, the animals will want to migrate to a different area of the ranch where there's no activity at the time. They'll want to move, but they can't necessarily move because they're in paddocks and they're in a barn. So sometimes animals will have that agitational behavior and herd panic because they know they don't want to be in the chaotic energy when it comes. Number 2, subsurface layer, quartz and metal veins, geological antennae amplifying geomagnetics, fault line conduit, oblique fracture channeling surges of energy, cavern network 200 to 300 feet, honeycomb chambers with low frequency hum, warm chambers, plasma rich, active, void chambers, spatially thin, bordering non-ordinary space. Number 3, plasma conduit, vertical portal spine, central column of plasma linking subsurface to the atmosphere, dimensional peel, opens veils for bleed-through phenomenon, consciousness responsive, adapts manifestations to fear, intent, and resonance. Interface function, scans, records, and projects into human mind space. Number 4, entities. Shifting predator form, wolf humanoid terror construct, feeds on fear. They are called the skinwalkers. Now, some of them may feed on the fear, some might not. Some might just appear and disappear to deflect or redirect people to go elsewhere and get off the ranch, or actually come to the ranch and look at the phenomenon. Depends on the day and what they're doing. That's what it feels like to me. These beings can choose different scenarios to show to people and how they're perceived. Sometimes unfriendly, sometimes friendlier, depending on what they want you to perceive and experience or learn. Learn wisdom, learn responsibility on this planet. They reflect different lessons and viewpoints that they think human beings should know and what experience they get. That's what I'm perceiving of what these beings are showing people or sharing with people, or sometimes not sharing at all. Plasma probes, orbs of light, or spheres, scout, record functions, phase through matter, interloper or interloping visitors, humanoid, insectoid, reptilian types, use conduit for transit, perform observation experiments, ancestral guardians, stone encoded crystal intelligences in cavern depths repel hostile activity. They repel it as much as they can because this is a sacred place that still has protection. Phenomenon. Number 5, time slips, loops, lost time, momentary duplications, poltergeist shifts, objects vanish, reappear, or relocate, never to be found again. They're just in different places or dimensions, or physically in a totally far off space where you're not going to find it easily. Animal mutilations, partial phasing, surgical anomalies, mind intrusions, telepathic probing via plasma interface, Planetary grid, number 6. Node position, ranch equals active node and global plasma lattice. Twin nodes, connected triangulation with other desert and mountain sites and regions. Ripple effects, activity here influences energy balance elsewhere. Switch point, role, redirects or amplifies planetary energy flows. So now we're going to switch remote viewing to Blindfrog Ranch and what happens there. Blindfrog Ranch remote view field report. Surface layer, visible environment. The property itself feels unsettled, like the land hums with an underground current. Ponds and water systems act as natural lenses refracting energetic flows. These aren't just random water features. They behave as natural shielding pools, distorting detection attempts. Surveillance feels dual. Some cameras are human installed, having motion sensors, trail cams, but there are also plasma-based sentry orbs that watch movement and intentions. Ranch structures above ground are decoys. The real activity is about what flows beneath. Subsurface layer, first tier underground. Cavernous systems interlaced with metallic seams, not ordinary ore, but alloy veins that seem partially synthetic, partially natural. They conduct energy and act as memory tracks. The blind frogs' namesake are tied to this environment. They're not normal amphibians. Their mutation was influenced by subterranean radiation fields and plasmic emissions. Initial chambers are booby-trapped with frequency locks, like humming walls that scramble equilibrium and perception when entered unshielded. Deep subsurface layer, second tier, a central chamber shaped like a hexagonal cavern. This is a resonance vault. Inside are crystalline lattice nodes, partly embedded into the stone, partly metallic scaffolding. These nodes hold fragmented records, star maps, genetic sequences, and frequency-coded instructions. They are not treasure in the usual sense, but rather operating keys for interfacing with a large planetary grid. Access tunnels contain anomalous materials, black slick rock that feels molten but cold to the touch, which absorbs light. When light hits, it pulls the photons in instead of reflecting. So there's specific types of materials that fold in on the light and absorb it instead of reflecting it back, which is interesting. Plasma conduit network. A conduit runs directly beneath the ranch, connecting into a wider Utah basin network. This plasma current acts like a blood vessel of the Earth's energetic body. It is used as a carrier wave for ultra-terrestrial transmissions. Information packets ride along this current, similar to fiber optics, but plasma-based. When humans interfere here, distortions occur, headaches, missing time, dream intrusions, because consciousness is already interfacing with the plasma flow unconsciously. Entities present. Number 1, sentries, plasma spheres with an artificial intelligence signature. They act more like guardians than beings, self-operating and responsive to intent. Number 2, ultra-terrestrial custodians, tall semi-translucent beings visible in deep layers. Their role is maintaining the vault, not engaging. They are not ETs in craft, but density-shifted stewards. Human shadow operations. There are individuals who attempt to drill, recover samples, and gain access. Their goals are extraction and technological control, but they meet constant energetic resistance. Grid layer, macro connection. Blindfrog Ranch is a node in a triangular alignment with Skinwalker Ranch and an unmarked third site further south. Together, they act as stabilizers for a capstone circuit. This circuit is designed to maintain a plasma bridge between Earth and an off-world lattice, possibly Orion anchored. Disturbance at one site destabilizes the entire triangle, which is why activity intensifies when digs or intrusions occur. What happens there? Attempts to access the vault always trigger anomalies, equipment failures, plasma discharges, and strange animal behavior. Consciousness testing occurs passively. Humans entering the site have their subconscious projected into dreamlike visions, testing their stability. Energy bleed through sometimes manifests as floating lights, radiation spikes, or even partial time overlaps where past and future scenes flicker in. Guardianship protocol. If the intent is exploitative, the field becomes hostile, causing nausea, tech crashes, and accidents to happen. If intent is aligned or curious without extraction, the field is neutral or even cooperative. Here's the Blindfrog Ranch mission board schematic, structured in layers so you can see how each connects. Blindfrog Ranch mission board schematic, surface. Water pools act as energetic lenses and cloaking fields. Human surveillance, cameras, motion sensors coexists with plasma sentry orbs. Ranch buildings and ponds are decoys for the real subterranean system. Subsurface first tier, cavern systems laced with metallic alloy veins acting as memory conductors. Blind frogs mutated by radiation and plasma emissions. Frequency traps in chambers scramble equilibrium when unshielded. If the unshielded mind encounters this, it could be very dangerous. That's what I'm getting energetically from this. Plasma conduit second tier connection. Central resonance vault hexagonal cavern with crystalline metal lattice nodes. Nodes contain star maps, genetic archives, frequency keys. Plasma conduit runs beneath the ranch, part of a basin-wide carrier wave system. Consciousness naturally interfaces with plasma flow, creating missing time and dream intrusions. Entities. Number 1, plasma sentries, AI-like orbs guarding access points. Number 2, ultra-terrestrial custodians, translucent stewards, non-interfering, density shifted. Number 3, human shadow ops, attempting extraction, meet resistance from field defenses. Grid macro level. Blindfrog Ranch forms a triangular alignment with Skinwalker Ranch, plus a southern site, a third site. Triad functions as a capstone circuit maintaining plasma bridge between the Earth and the Orion anchored lattice. Interference at one node destabilizes the entire triangle, amplifying anomalies. Different beings showing up, cattle issues with other animals, things being stirred up, energetical issues, energetic disturbances, all of that happens if things are destabilized because of, human interference, trying to dig up the land, trying to extract things from the land that shouldn't be extracted. That type of activity triggers the protection protocols. Remote viewing Bradshaw Ranch and what happens there. Bradshaw Ranch remote view, layered exploration, surface layer, what visitors sense physically. A rugged desert plateau in Arizona, ringed with sandstone cliffs and dry brush. At first glance, abandoned buildings, ranch houses of coral, and broken fencing. The air feels heavy in certain spots, like static pockets. A compression of energy. The land itself has resonant nodes where Earth magnetics are unusual. When you step into these, the temperature subtly shifts. Even if there doesn't, visitors often feel like they're being watched, though no one is visibly around. Subsurface layer, hidden infrastructure, and energetic currents. Beneath the ranch, there's a triangular lattice of stone and metal implants sunk into the bedrock. These are not natural, they resonate with geomagnetic currents. These act as anchoring pins for an overlay field. They pulse faintly, almost like a low drum heartbeat, adjusting to solar winds and geomagnetic surges. There are tunnels running eastward, not like mining shafts, but reinforced conduits. They connect to a chamber shaped like a hexagon about 2 to 3 stories tall. This chamber contains what looks like a plasma conduit, an upright swirling pillar of white-blue light. It is stabilized with a ring structure like a standing frame around the flow. Phenomenon layer, what actually happens there, temporal bleed-throughs. Time doesn't flow evenly here. At the plasma conduit, there are overlaps, flashes where the desert looks like prehistoric scenes, dinosaurs grazing in flickers, then futuristic metallic craft, and translucent domes showing up. So this plasmatic conduit through which things are seen, flashes of the past, the present, and the future. This is what it looks like. Then we look at entity crossings, shimmering humanoids, tall, thin beings with slightly elongated heads who use the plasma conduit to step in and out. They seem observational, non-invasive. So they use this conduit as a portal system coming in and out. And so is the kind of time looping, I guess, the time flickering, where you see different periods of reality, Earth's past, present, and future, and sometimes doorways to other places, perhaps other planets, other dimensions, other realities as well, through this plasma conduit. There's also small shadow forms darting in and out, 3 to 4 feet tall, sometimes misinterpreted as grays, but they feel more like energetic scavengers. They slip in when the field weakens so that they can gain entrance to the physical world on Earth. They can't stay here in this reality. They're not 3D, 4D based. So they cannot just walk around. They can slip in and out temporarily, only for short periods of time on the corporeal physical aspect, walking the land, very brief periods. They have to go back quickly wherever they come from. Craft phenomenon. At night, glowing orbs hover above the ridge lines. They are monitor drones shifting between visible spectrum and infrared. Sometimes they phase down into the ranch yard itself. Government military overlays. There is an occasional Black Ops presence, unmarked helicopters, and remote monitoring. They aren't stationed there full time, but check in when the activity spikes. They're more interested in containment than exploration. Core vault, the deepest layer of why the ranch is active. The plasma conduit is part of a larger planetary grid system. Bradshaw Ranch is one of the surface access nodes, like a capstone on a deeper lake corridor. It is not an isolated site, but linked to Sedona's vortex network and outward to other planetary portals. The purpose, it was seeded long ago as a stabilization node, balancing the crustal and etheric fields of the region. The visitors who step through are basically technicians or monitors, checking the grid integrity. Human involvement, ranching, later government monitoring is almost incidental. The land itself was chosen for geophysical reasons. The strongest field spikes happen at dawn and dusk, When solar and telluric currents cross, that's when most sightings occur. Energetic field. The land hums with a deep violet gold frequency in its natural state. When the plasma conduit is active, it spikes into white blue with silver lattices, producing both awe and disorientation for unshielded humans. Prolonged exposure can shift consciousness, out of body states, vivid visions, or sometimes nausea and disorientation if the body resists. Summary key. Bradshaw Ranch isn't just a hotspot, it's a grid access point, sitting on a subsurface conduit chamber that anchors geomagnetic and interdimensional flow. Visitors report anomalies because the field weakens the usual veils between timelines and dimensions. Entities step through not to invade but to monitor. Human groups surveil to keep it quiet. Mapping Bradshaw Ranch into a mission board style schematic so each layer stacks clearly and shows the connections. Bradshaw Ranch mission board schematic. Surface layer physical ranch. Desert plateau, sandstone ridges, abandoned ranch houses and corals. Static pockets of compressed atmosphere. Visitors sense being watched. Heightened awareness states. So they have heightened awareness states. They can sense things, not necessarily see things all the time. There's night orbs and occasional helicopter sweeps from the human military. Night orbs aren't human military. That's different. Leads down into subsurface layer hidden infrastructure, triangular lattice of stone and metallic implants embedded in the bedrock. Geomagnetic anchoring pins stabilize an overlay field. Eastward tunnels, reinforced conduits, hexagonal chamber, 3 stories tall beneath the ranch. Chamber holds a swirling plasma conduit and containment frame. Plasma conduit is the central axis, plasma conduit or mechanism. Vertical pillar of blue-white plasma with silver lattice rings. Stabilizes geomagnetic and interdimensional flow, creates temporal bleed-throughs, prehistoric futuristic flickers of scenes happening, functions like a doorway and power node simultaneously, activity strongest at dawn and dusk, opens the way for entities having crossings and activity, tall shimmering humanoids, grid technicians, observers, small shadow scavengers, opportunistic slip-ins when field weakens. They don't stay for long and they can't stay. So they're very short-lived visits and experiences by them. They have to quickly go home. They can't sustain their energy in 3D, 4D on this land. Orb drones, self-guiding probes, phase between the visible spectrum and the IR, Black Ops monitoring, human activity of helicopters, remote sensors, occasional containment sweeps. They just want to keep things in so none of this activity slips out. Containment. All tied into planetary grid deep core purpose. Bradshaw Ranch equals 1 node in a global lay corridor system. Think of Skinwalker Ranch. Think of Blindfrog Ranch. They all have these plasma conduits and they have different functions and similar functions. So it's all interconnected, linked into Sedona vortex and outward to planetary portals. Original purpose, stabilization node for crustal etheric balance. Visitor's role, grid maintenance, not invasion. Human ranching and monitoring, incidental overlay on ancient function. So this plasmatic conduit has been here long before humans were even doing any type of activity on any of these ranches. Flow summary, surface ranch, strange sensations, light surveillance, sits atop subsurface lattice and tunnels, hidden infrastructure, anchors, plasma conduit chamber, the engine of anomalies, enables, entity crossings and bleed-throughs, ETs, shadow beings, time slips, all serving planetary grid stabilization, global energetic balance node. So it's plasma based. It's found at all three ranches with having different activity, having different scenarios of things happening, different beings coming and going. But this plasmatic conduit seems to be the link as it is at all three ranches in different form and what it does, but beings come in through it, in and out. That seems to be the common denominator, but it serves different purposes. Skinwalker Ranch is more fear-based in what the skinwalkers and the beings project there. Blindfrog Ranch and Bradshaw Ranch, not focusing on fear-based phenomenon, different phenomenon out there. So there are some differences and similarities. The similarity is the plasma conduit and the connection to the whole Earth and the activities that happen there. So this is kind of the summary of it, of what all three ranches have in common and some differences. So I just wanted to share that in this remote viewing. Thank you so much.